On April 25, 1980, Manchester Airport was bustling with activity as Dan Air Flight 1008 prepared for takeoff. The aircraft, a Boeing 7700, stood on the runway ready to embark on a charter flight from Manchester to Santa Cruz de Tenerife, a popular destination in the Canary Islands. It was the first leg of a carefully planned operation. The plane would deliver 138 passengers to Tenerife, refuel, and then return to the UK with another group of travelers. For the passengers, this was a journey filled with excitement and anticipation. Tenerife's sandy beaches and warm climate promised an escape from the dreary skies of Britain. But for the 8 crew members on board, this was another day on the job. A routine flight they had performed countless times before. The crew was experienced and capable. Captain Arthur J. Whalen, a 50-year-old veteran pilot with over 1,500 flight hours, led the team. His co-pilot, Michael J. O'Byrne, and flight engineer Raymond J. Carey, both 33, had accumulated thousands of flight hours themselves. By all accounts, this flight was in good hands. At 9:22 a.m., Flight 1008 roared down the runway at Manchester and ascended into the cloudy skies. The takeoff was smooth, and the journey across Europe to Tenerife was uneventful. By early afternoon, the Boeing 727 approached the Canary Islands, preparing for its descent into Los Rodeos Airport. But as the plane neared its destination, a series of decisions, misunderstandings, and errors would culminate in one of the deadliest aviation disasters in British history. At 1:14 p.m., the crew of Flight 1008 contacted Tenerife Approach Control, reporting their position at 10990 feet, 16 miles from the Tango Foxtrot November radio beacon. The approach controller instructed them to descend and prepare for a direct approach to runway 12. The crew acknowledged the instructions and requested updated weather information. The weather at Los Rodeos Airport was not unusual for Tenerife, but still challenging. Visibility was limited to 3 to 4 miles due to cloud cover, and the runway was surrounded by rugged terrain. These conditions made precise navigation critical, especially during the approach phase. Moments later, the controller cleared the flight to descend further, eventually instructing the crew to descend to 4,921 feet. This altitude, however, would later prove insufficient for the mountainous terrain around the airport. As the aircraft approached the TFN radio beacon, a critical error occurred. The crew reported passing the beacon 33 seconds after they had actually done so, a delay that would lead to navigational inaccuracies. The controller, unaware of the discrepancy, directed the aircraft to proceed to the next waypoint, the Foxtrot Papa Fox radio beacon, and to maintain a course of 150 degrees. However, the crew failed to align their course correctly. Instead of following the intended path, the Boeing 727 deviated 0.62 miles south of the FP beacon, placing it in a dangerous area where the minimum safe altitude was 1,450 feet. At this point, the crew began to experience doubts. The co-pilot voiced concerns about their position, but the captain reassured him that they were flying parallel to the runway. Even the flight engineer questioned their course, but his concerns were dismissed. The situation grew more precarious as the aircraft descended further into the mountainous region. Suddenly, the Ground Proximity Warning System, GPWS, blared in the cockpit, a chilling alarm signaling that the plane was dangerously close to the ground. The captain immediately halted his left turn and began a right turn, attempting to steer the aircraft away from the mountains. The co-pilot suggested taking a course of 122 degrees to escape the danger, but the captain, believing his actions were sufficient, continued to turn right, In those critical moments, the GPWS warnings ceased, giving the crew a false sense of security. But the danger had not passed. At 1:21 p.m., just minutes after the first GPWS warning, Flight 1008 collided with a cloud-covered mountain at an altitude of 5,452 feet. The impact was catastrophic. The Boeing 727 disintegrated on contact, scattering debris across the rugged terrain. All 146 people on board, 138 passengers and 8 crew members, lost their lives instantly. The crash site, shrouded in mist and difficult to access, was a scene of devastation. Rescue teams faced immense challenges as they navigated the treacherous terrain, but there were no survivors to save. In the aftermath of the tragedy, a joint investigation was launched by Spanish and British authorities. The Spanish Commission concluded that the primary cause of the crash was the captain's decision to direct the aircraft into a high terrain zone without maintaining a safe altitude. This error was compounded by insufficient monitoring of navigation equipment and a lack of assertiveness from the co-pilot and flight engineer. However, the British side raised additional concerns. They argued that the controller's instructions were ambiguous and may have contributed to the crew's confusion. For example, the holding altitude of 4,921 feet was dangerously low given the terrain surrounding Los Rodeos Airport. Had the altitude been set to 7,874 feet, as recommended, the crash might have been avoided. The approach procedure itself was also criticized for its complexity. The sharp turns required to align with the runway added to the crew's disorientation, especially in poor weather conditions. The crash of DanAir Flight 1008 was a wake-up call for the aviation industry. It highlighted the need for clearer communication between air traffic controllers and flight crews, especially in challenging environments. It also underscored the importance of robust navigation training and the critical role of cockpit resource management, CRM, which emphasizes teamwork and effective communication among crew members, became a key focus in pilot training programs worldwide after incidents like this. The tragedy also led to a re-evaluation of approach procedures at airports with challenging terrain, ensuring that minimum safe altitudes are always maintained. For the families of the 146 victims, the loss was immeasurable. Many of those on board were traveling for leisure, their lives cut short in an instant. The crash not only devastated loved ones, but also left a lasting scar on the communities they came from. For DanAir, the incident was a blow to its reputation. Although the airline continued operations, the tragedy remained a dark chapter in its history, a reminder of the heavy responsibility borne by those in the aviation industry. The story of DanAir Flight 1008 is a sobering reminder of the delicate balance between human judgment, technological systems, and the unforgiving realities of nature. It serves as a testament to the importance of vigilance, preparation, and continuous improvement in aviation safety. While the lessons learned from this tragedy have undoubtedly saved countless lives in the years since, the memories of those lost that day remain a poignant reminder of the high stakes of air travel. For those who stepped onto that Boeing 727 on April 25, 1980, Tenerife was meant to be a destination of joy and relaxation. Instead, it became the final chapter of their lives, and their legacy lives on in the lessons their story has imparted to the world.